Yeah, so I'll just jump right into it. This is my favorite week of the year. I love it. I mean, I know, Matt, I think you're going to talk about The Last of Us, the last episode. I haven't had a chance to watch it. Any waking second I have a free time, I'm watching bracketology shows. Doesn't matter who, doesn't matter what station, doesn't matter. I watched some random three guys. It looked like it was like CBS's like C Team, and I watched an hour like show of them breaking it down. I absorb it all, man. As I've said before, I don't ever really win brackets, but when it comes to the first weekend, I'm like, when you look at my tombstone when I die, it'll say first weekend champion every year. You guys know it. Every year when we do our 3-point podcast bracket, which join, after that first weekend, it always irritates you guys because my name's right up there at the top. It always is. And so I just feel like I have a great inkling with this first weekend. After that, I kind of fall apart. I kind of blame part of that on the fact that I always take kind of a dark horse to win it all, because one of the very first years I ever did a bracket, I ended up losing by 10 points because I had the same champion as somebody else, and he had a first round pick that I didn't have. And so the whole way of the tournament, I knew I couldn't win because he was always 10 points ahead of me. So ever since then, it's kind of been my thing, is where I pick a dark horse. So I'm going to save some of my, I have a whole upset list I'm going to go through. Maybe we just start with our Final Fours. I have my whole bracket here. I'll start with the Final Four and we'll kind of work our way back. I have Alabama coming out of the South. That's an obvious pick. Everybody has that pick. So I'm not reinventing the wheel with that one. I have Houston, although I will say I'm very nervous about Houston's second round matchup if it's against Auburn. That game will be played in Birmingham, Alabama. Going to be a big time home game for Auburn. Yeah. Though that 1 versus 8 or 9 is always a scary game. It doesn't matter how good you are as a 1 seed or how poor that 8 or 9 seed is. It's always a scary matchup. Then I have UCLA in the West, and then I have my kind of big upset type, fairy tale type run would be Kentucky. And then I end up having UCLA win it all. So we can break down individual games from there, but that's just, in general, that's my Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, I any picks that you make, it's such a crapshoot. I mean, I was watching a couple too. Like, Jay Billis did this whole breakdown. He picked every game. So I watched his thing, and I watched a couple other experts, making their picks. And it's like, I don't care if you know everything there is to know about college basketball. It's just, you got to get lucky. I mean, yes, there are like certain trends or, certain matchups that might be bad, styles of play and stuff like that. Sure, you can look into that stuff and, do a little analysis, make some smart picks. Otherwise, I mean, you just got to get lucky. You got to get lucky on picking the certain upsets or whatever. But, the Big Ten thing that Ted mentioned, I'm never trusting a Big Ten team. Purdue being a number 1 seed, nope. I saw someone tweeted out like a poll, like what number 1 seed is more likely to lose or something like that. And Purdue was like 75% of the votes. Like no one trusts them. Even if you have a Zach Edey, it's just like, I don't know what it is about Big Ten teams. They always come up short. Michigan really is the one team that's had some success recently. Yeah. Obviously, Michigan State has a little bit too. But so anyway, I'm definitely definitely not Purdue out of that region. I'm all in on Duke. I don't know if it's because I was just watching them all this past weekend at the ACC tournament, but they are playing really well. Filipowski and some of the other dudes, Proctor and Roach and some of the other guys. I mean, Shire has those guys playing some good basketball. So I'm all in on Duke, and I'm picking them to win it. They're my winner. Up top, probably the same thing. I think Virginia is going to come through that one. I don't really trust Alabama. Brandon Miller, everything that's going on with him. I've watched a lot of Alabama this year. Very talented, but they're young. Brandon Miller is pretty inconsistent. He had some distractions off the court, and Virginia is just so well coached. Tony Bennett is watching them play basketball. And it just, watching them play basketball and then watching Michigan is just like, one team is incredibly well coached. I'm not saying Juwan Howard's a bad coach, but watching how they execute is so different. So that South region, I'm picking Virginia. The Midwest, I think most of the time, because I did fill out a few, I think I went with Houston most of the time out of that Midwest, just really no other reason. I do think Penn State could be sneaky. I mean, bagging on the Big Ten. They're that team that's playing really well right now. No, I know it's Penn State.
They are.
What are we talking about? Penn State basketball. I don't even know. They're playing so well. So they might be that hot team coming into the tournament. Who knows? But I'm still sticking with Houston. And then on the other side, I would have went with UCLA, but they just had that major injury. So I don't know about that. I'm going with Gonzaga out of there. So Gonzaga, Houston, Duke, Virginia. Duke winning it all. That's what I'm going with.
Well, good picks. I'll tell you the truth, guys. I haven't made my final four picks. I haven't filled out a bracket, but I did a quick look at it, and maybe some of the teams I'm really looking at seriously. A couple of them are the ones you had there, Matt. I mean, Virginia. I have them on that left upper side. I'm looking for them to go real deep. I don't know if they're going to make my final four yet or not. And Duke, I also had them penciled in that they're playing good basketball out of a good league, and I think it's a good story there with Shire taking over for Coach K, maybe trying to set his own legacy. On the bottom right side of the bracket, I like Gonzaga too, but I also like Arkansas maybe to make a little noise in the tournament as well. The way they play, and they're coached by Musselman. He does a pretty good job there. And on the upper side, I was right with you, Jared. I would worry about that Houston-Auburn game as well. I think Auburn plays very good basketball. It's going to be in Birmingham. And, the SEC this year, real tough league, maybe the toughest league along with the Big 12. So I don't know. I don't have my final four yet. I will tell you this, though. I'm going to play the 3-Point Podcast Bracket Challenge. I'm going to play a couple other ones. But hold on. My bracket's going to be the same on all of them. All right? Slow down. Slow down, mister.
I find that was one thing you've actually changed your opinion on over the course of this podcast. You used to be famous where, I mean, you're such a money grabber that you would fill out 10 different ones and put them in 10 different pools.
A lot of people do, buddy.
One game we got to hone in real quick before maybe we go. I'll go through my upsets. I mean, Michigan State versus USC. Michigan State, 1.5-point favorite. Just some facts about Michigan State and Izzo kind of as of late. This is a shocking statistic I saw on Twitter this week. Tom Izzo and Michigan State have not made it out of the first weekend in 7 of the last 8 tournaments they've been.
Whoa.
I mean, this is a judgment game for Michigan State and for Tom Izzo. I really do feel that.
No, it shouldn't be, right? Because it's January, February Izzo. I mean, that stat can't be true.
Right.
They win. They make it to the Final Four every year, right?
It's concerning. It's a concerning stat. It's a jarring stat. I don't know how we never picked up on that.
It shouldn't be. They haven't won a national title in 23 years. It should not be.
It really shouldn't. I'm playing devil's advocate here with Izzo. Like you said, the whole March, he owns March, dominates March. It's a shocking statistic.
Yeah.
They got their work cut out for them, man. USC is flipping no slouch. You guys know, as you guys have already alluded to, my kind of rules. Fade the Big Ten. Always bet on the Pac-12 and the SEC. Those are usually my 3 kind of conferences that I align with pretty much every tournament. Usually doesn't lead me astray. We saw it with the ACC last year with Duke and North Carolina. Big Ten, like every other year, fizzled out other than Michigan. Like you said, they always kind of exceed expectations, whatever their expectations are this year. But Michigan State, it's kind of now or never. I will say, you look at how they're built. I mean, 39.5% of their from 3-point land this year. I mean, they make 76% of their free throws. If I saw that just on like paper, I would say, oh, this is a good tournament team. I want to bet on this team. But we know from watching this whole year, they're inconsistent. They're not clutch. The guard play comes and goes. We saw Izzo freaking out on Hoggard and Hoggard having almost no expression last week. I think we're in line for a Izzo type freak out. Like we remember the Aaron Henry freak out round 1 of that tournament. We remember the UCLA halftime freak out in the play-in game a couple years ago. I really think with like 16 minutes or so left in the second half, Izzo is going to be reaming into somebody, and it's not going to be good. I have USC in this game, but I'm definitely picking that with my heart and not my head. Like I said, Michigan State's a great tournament team. The one thing I'd hold off hope for if I'm Michigan State is Joey Hauser. I could see a 5 for 8 from 3 land game, 6 for 8 from 3 land. I could see that, but other than that, I think they're in trouble.
How much do you weigh the location? Because they are playing in Columbus too. I mean, you got to look at locations of where the games are and some of these matchups. USC's coming all the way across country. Do you put like 3 points on that as a swing to the like Michigan State in that
There's going to be a lot of MSU fans there too.
Yes, there will.
It's a big deal. I mean, you heard me talking about that with Auburn. I think that if this is on the West Coast, I think USC is probably a 2-point favorite. I bet you it's a 4-point swing. It's going to be filled with State fans. You can't shake that statistic I just threw out there. Now, obviously, Marquette would be waiting for them if they won. Which if I'm a Marquette fan, I am very nervous about whoever wins this game in that next round matchup. But no, from this team I've seen all year. It's the team I've watched more than anyone, even more than Michigan. Thank God. Thank God I don't have to watch another second of them, even if they're in the NIT. I just don't trust them. There's nobody you trust on this team. There's nobody you say, go win us a national championship.
Right.
So for that reason, I'm going to lean with what history has told us, which is don't bet the Big Ten. And in 7 of the last 8 years, it's don't bet Michigan State.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. Is Hauser going to be the guy that steps up for him? Walker's been playing well. Malik, we keep going. They don't have a Cassius Winston. They don't even have a Xavier Tillman. They don't have a guy like that they can just count on. Maybe Hauser. He is playing well lately. My thing is, it almost feels like the USC game is almost like a coin flip. I almost feel like this is going to be one of those Izzo years. If they can beat USC, they're going to beat Marquette and get to the Sweet 16. Like, I just feel like if they can get past USC and get those stats that you're talking about, Jared, kind of get that a little bit off their back, they're going to go into that Marquette game saying, we can win this. Let's get to the Sweet 16. We got this. Because Marquette, they're a 2 seed, but they haven't been blowing people out of the water all season. All of college basketball, people have been up and down. So I wouldn't be surprised either way. Michigan State comes out firing on all cylinders and looks like they're about to make a little noise, or they come out flat and lose by 15. Because
are you still considering that one, Matt? We know Jared's out.
I picked Michigan State to beat USC, and but then I have Marquette beating them. Like Jared kind of said, maybe with my heart, I just don't think they're a Sweet 16 team. But I wouldn't be shocked if they did it.
Yeah. The thing that would really, and honestly, this may be the biggest thing of them all is, USC's guard. There are 2 guards that are studs. 2 senior guards averaging 18 and 14 a game, and 4 assists and 4 rebounds apiece, each of them. Boogie Ellis is one of them. That just worries me. Yeah. You need guards in March. We know that. Michigan State is definitely stronger at guard than they are at center. Sissoko, after kind of lighting it up against Gonzaga game 1, I thought he was going to be a stud this year, has done nothing. So I'm worried about them. Ted, you're the Izzo defender. Do you consider this kind of a judgment game?
It is kind of a judgment game. He's got the all-time record for making it into the tournament. He's got that. At least he can put his hat on. But it is kind of a judgment thing. You laid out the stats perfectly. State can't falter in this game without getting a lot of grief, and a lot of it's going to be pointed at Coach Izzo. Every coach reaches the end of the line somewhere, and I don't think he wants to reach it this year. So he's going to do everything in his power to get by USC, and like Matt said, maybe pull an upset over Marquette and make a Sweet 16. And that would really, if you think about it, I'm not sure how long he's going to coach, but if he decides, let's just say out of the blue, says this is it after this season, a Sweet 16 appearance would kind of solidify his legacy.
They played Duke tight last year, if you remember, in the round of 32 last year. And Duke was a lot better than Marquette is, I think. So you just got to survive this game. It's a coin flip game.
It is.
You're going to find out who you really are, Michigan State and Michigan State fans. And if they win this game, I'd be feeling good heading into the round of 32 game. But you just you're going to figure out who you are in about that first 10 minutes of this USC game.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go sentimental and just go with my elder statesman Izzo in that one. I'm going to pick Michigan State in that game.
That whole 25 tournament streak. Okay, that's impressive. They were below 500 in the Big Ten this year. I'm kind of not sure how they made the tournament. A couple of years ago, they're in the play-in, and they lose the first game in the play-in. So if we want to count that as them making the tournament, I guess that counts. But let's give them credit. 25 in a row. All right.
Let's face it, Matt. You are an MSU hater, man.
Not MSU.
There ain't no getting around it. Yes,
not necessarily MSU. It's mostly
I don't know.
It's mostly Izzo.
Oh, it's Izzo. Okay.
I'm the first one to jump on a lot of things. I will say the plan, yes, it is kind of a asterisk, but it is what it is. That is the tournament. And it's
part of
funny
the tournament
they lost to in the play-in that they were beating by 15 at halftime. You ended up in the championship game that year, or the Final Four, excuse me. So it kind of is what it is. It is a part of the tournament. If you're an 11 seed in the play-in, you're in the tournament, in my book.
One final question on that, because I saw Reggie Walker posted it. Do you think the play-in games should be playing for a couple of 11 spots? Don't you think they all should be 16s or not?
I've always thought that's weird how they do that. A couple of them are for 16s. The other one, I would think the play-ins should be literally the last 8 teams.
Yeah, I would think so
selected.
Too.
But
I don't hate it. No one's gonna watch it. No, they might as well not even do the play-in if it's just 16 seeds. So no, because this way you still get all the mid majors that win their conference. They all get in, and you
Right.
still get a couple of these bubble teams. And we've seen it. I mean, there's been 2 or 3 times where that play-in team makes a run. That's why, I
True.
mean, UCLA, VCU way back when, that's why every year I'll pick and here's what I think. I think that when you win that play-in game, I think it's a huge advantage. I really do. It sucks that you have to play it, but if you somehow survive,
Mhm.
you got your feet wet in the tournament. You just had a big confidence booster win. We've seen it propel a lot of teams, and that's why I always take the play-in seed to win 1 or 2 games every single year.
Does
Without even knowing
does
who's
your
gonna win.
list, Jared, have any of the playoff or play-in teams winning a game or so?
Yeah, I have them both. I have them both, and then I have Mississippi State or Pittsburgh. I have them in a Sweet 16.
Okay.
So I'm kind of the doctor of upsets. So let me just kind of roll through some of them that I have on the list. You guys are gonna be a little bit nervous about one of them. I'll just say that. First one. This is a lock. You guys should change your bracket right now if you don't have it. Kent State to the Sweet 16. Indiana. What an overseed. They are not that good, man.
Right.
How are they a 4 seed? Genuinely, how are they a 4 seed? They lost early in the Big Ten tournament. The Big Ten regular season, they were in the pack with all the rest of the scrubs like Michigan. How in God's green earth did they earn this 4 seed? They are overseeded because of brand, that alone.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, Kent State isn't scared of anyone. Lost to Houston by 5, lost to Gonzaga by I think 6. They're senior heavy. If you remember, they actually should have been in the tournament last year, but due to sanctions, they were not able to play in the game. They have the MAC Player of the Year on their team. I mean, 3 seniors in the starting lineup. I love everything about Kent State. And the MAC, as we saw with Ohio a couple years ago with Jalen Preston, they've been kind of putting up some good teams lately. Buffalo, Ohio, this year, Kent State. I'm telling you, Kent State's going to upset Indiana. And at that point, you might as well just take them to win the next round, too.
I think I have that was definitely a game I went back and forth on, and I did end up picking them to beat Indiana, basically because of what you said. Indiana, how are they a 4 seed? I think people just overvalue the Big Ten so often, but maybe this is just the year you have to overvalue someone because everyone is just so middle of the road. But that's a good one.
Do you have them beaten Miami, or do you have them beaten Drake?
I haven't played. No, I didn't mention the Drake pick. Everyone's on Drake. It's really not even an upset at this point. I love Drake. They have an NBA player because his dad's the coach. They are also very senior laden, and I love that they shoot the 3 ball. But no, I because they are not even really an upset at this point, I'm not going to consider them. But I did pick Drake in that game. My next big one. This is the biggest one of them all. This is the granddaddy of them all. If this happens, Ted, you have to send me $25 before you even hear it. I have Colgate beating Texas round 1. That's a 15 over a 2. Now, before you say anything, here's why. Raiders the best 3-point shooting team in the country, 41%. All 5 starters are in double digits. They don't turn the ball over. They just beat Syracuse last month. Obviously, it's a long shot. They just won their conference tournament final against Lafayette by 20 points. It's a long shot. I get that. They're on an 11-game win streak. I got a good feeling about this group, man. They're undersized. They're chippy. They can stroke the ball. And they slow it down to a screeching halt. And Texas, something about Texas, they're kind of the trendy team. Whenever there's the trendy team, they never pan out. Yeah. And sometimes you got to take a few swings in your bracket to have some fun, know that you're living, know that your heart's racing. And that's this one for me, man. Colgate over Texas. That's a 15 over a 2.
Wow.
I know, yeah. Texas is the trendy pick because they just smashed their way through the Big 12 tournament and crushed Kansas in the title game. But my thing is, they don't have a head coach. I mean, they had a whole coaching situation go on mid-season, but I've seen some people say, and they've drawn comparisons, different situations, but Ted, you definitely remember vividly, 1989, a similar thing happened with Michigan. Mm-hmm. Coaching change kind of mid-season, end of the season. Michigan makes a run with a new coach, Steve Fisher, wins a national title. I've seen some people say maybe that's going to be Texas this year. You know, they rally behind the whole coaching situation that went on and make a run, but they're also, I don't really trust anyone from the Big 12 a whole lot. I mean, Kansas, but Kansas, Bill Self is going through his whole health issues right now too. So maybe they're going to rally behind Bill Self, but I like that. I didn't do that. I might have to go back and
dude, I'm telling you,
might have to go back and revisit this.
You have to take one big swing every year because that 1 out of 20 years that you hit it, you're walking on cloud 9, man.
Yeah, that's a good swing, Jared. I see it though that I still would go with Texas in that game, but I see that as one of those, first day matchups that it comes right down to the wire, and I just see Texas hanging on, but Colgate giving them a good run. I hope I'm wrong.
Here's also my thought with a lot of brackets. So we mentioned Texas A&M versus Penn State. I think Texas A&M. You talk about a team that was underseeded. It's Texas A&M. I mean, I think they won 26 games. I think they're good. And here's the thing
look at their schedule. They didn't beat anyone they played that was good. They did not beat.
That's fair.
Those all their wins are against Eastern Michigan and Grand Valley State. I mean,
hey, you can only play who's in. Hey, they didn't lose to Central Michigan. We all know how that can happen.
That's why Michigan's in NIT.
Here's more than almost. This is basically a sight unseen pick. When you get these kind of upset, Texas A&M versus Texas games, I remember way back when, worst day of my life. Right when I think I've told some story before, when Warren Buffett announced the $1 billion prize if you pick a perfect bracket.
Oh, right.
I obsessed over that for a week. I literally probably 10 hours a day. That's all I did during school. That's all I did when I got home from school. I was up till midnight, looking over brackets, looking over everything. Dayton versus Ohio State, game number 1, Thursday, 12:15 tip, and Ohio State loses. And just like that, the perfect bracket was over. Ever since then, I've learned the lesson. If you guys remember, I picked Chicago Loyola to beat Illinois a couple years ago. When you have these rivalries and it's kind of the team that's kind of looked down as like a little brother, like Michigan and Michigan State in football, I always will take that upset every time. That's like Kent State and Indiana. Yeah, they're not necessarily. I don't think they're the same state, right? Or it's Ohio, I believe.
Yeah,
but but a lot of those kids that went to Kent State were definitely wanted to go to Indiana, I bet. So they feel slighted. So the reason I did that is because if I'm gonna have Texas losing that game anyway, I might as well just take a ringer and say I'm gonna take Colgate to beat Texas. Why not? Let's throw a hat in the ring.
Texas A&M could be good. Buzz Williams is a good coach. And they've got talent. They just if you look at their schedule, it might make you second guess that. But
Buzz Williams has burned me a lot.
You never know.
I will say that. So this obviously easily could be another burning by Buzz Williams, but I'll take my chances. Texas is just that program seems to kind of blow it every year. So that's the way I look at it. We mentioned this, Matt. I think you might be on the same page with this. Memphis over Purdue in round 2. Now I'm nervous that that Memphis might not make it out of round 1. I wish that FAU was a 9 seed in almost any other 8-9 game. I would take them to win other than Memphis. Memphis is a tough matchup. Purdue, they're just not that good. I feel like Big Ten teams couldn't quite figure out that if you just press this team and give their guards a little bit of pressure, they will collapse. We saw Penn State finally figure it out at the end of the Big Ten championship game.
Yep.
You need guards, not Zach Edey, to win a national championship. And I just think Memphis is an all-time bad draw, almost a big FU from the NCAA to Purdue. And I just think they're going to get upset round 2.
Memphis is playing well, too. Penny Hardaway has those guys playing well. They won their conference tournament. And that just might be one of those, I was kind of talking trash or whatever about experts or, thinking that you can outsmart the bracket, but you kind of laid it out. That might be one of those where you look at trends, numbers, style of play. And if Memphis can get to the second round and Purdue, that Memphis might have the style of play that Purdue just can't, match up with. Mm-hmm. And so that might be one of those. Or I agree with everything you said about Zach Edey. I just don't think he's one to carry them to the Final Four, but he is really good. So I feel like it could go one of two ways. If he just has an all-time tournament, they just start dumping the ball and he starts scoring 30, 35 a night, he could. But yeah, usually you got to have guard play. You've got to have good guard play.
If you guys remember the Iowa versus Oregon game from 2 years ago, Luka Garza, where Iowa just
perfect example
off the floor by 30. I could see that happening.
Yeah,
I could see Purdue winning by 20, but I could definitely see a scenario where Memphis just what in the world, where did this team come from? Right. And they just look like a 10 times better team.
Well, you see these other schools and these other teams, that you don't get a chance to see all year long. I mean, they're putting the ball up and down the court, Is Edey going to be able to keep up with that kind of pace and some of their other players, Right. That's the thing I love about the tournament. I mean, the pace of play, you usually don't see a lot of slowdown stuff. Maybe Princeton when they played in it, but other teams, Virginia, they push it up the court.
Virginia definitely slows it down, makes people play their style. But I think that's what comes back to bite Big Ten teams a lot. Big Ten basketball is a little slower. Right. Teams usually have a big guy like Dickinson or Zach Edey. And these other teams, they don't do that. They're Colgate. They're jacking up a bunch of threes and, playing that kind of style. So it should be a good tournament. I mean, it's one of those where there's really no clear cut number one, favorite that everyone is picking. There's been some injuries too. So I
That's
think
what I
it'll be
like
fun.
about this year's
Yeah.
layout. I really do. There's not a clear cut favorite really when
Yeah,
you
it's
look at the whole
awesome.
bracket.
I mean, I can't wait to get this damn thing rolling already, man.
Yeah.
I got one last pick for you guys. Then I'll shut up for a while. Okay,
Good
so this is
stuff.
something I kind of noticed right before we started recording. I'm gonna keep it. It definitely seems dumb, but I'm gonna keep it. So I have every single 13 seed beating the 4 seed. I just noticed that.
Wow.
I'm gonna hone in on one of them.
So you've got Virginia losing in the first round.
Furman is like, I think, number 4 in the country in assists, and they shoot the hell out of the ball. Virginia is only a 5-point favorite, I think, in that game. It made me very nervous. We know how Virginia is. I mean, just their play style. Every game is close.
Yeah.
So if this team makes a couple threes, gets out to a 6, 7, 8-point lead, it's a whole different ballgame. So yep. I'm nervous about. That's the one that I'm like the least confident about is Furman, but I'm keeping it just because I put it and I'm locking it in. But I like Iona over UConn. This game is in New York.
Funny, a lot of people are in on UConn being kind of the sleeper final.
They're the trendy team. Trend. I actually went through and marked the quote unquote trendy teams because they never do well. Sorry, Matt. It's Duke. It's Duke. It is who do we just name?
UConn.
It is Duke. It's UConn. It is Marquette, and those three.
Mm-hmm.
They never do well. The trendy team never pans out. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Duke, everything about Duke, I took everything in my power not to pick them to the Final Four, just because of that reason. Because I knew everybody's on this team. They're playing hot. They won their tournament. Everything on paper looks like they should make it there, but I just couldn't because of the trendiness. I couldn't do it. But anyway, Iona. Pitino, man, he's going against Kentucky or Connecticut staff that has never won an NCAA tournament game. UConn's a 10-point favorite. Listen, everyone's on UConn. Are we forgetting about Iona? I mean, I believe they've won. Let me make sure I'm right on this. They've won, I think, 13 straight games. I mean, they are freaking rolling. These mid-major teams are senior laden. And Rick Pitino is going to have the leg up in the coaching competition. We know he might be going to St. John's, which is another kind of interesting part of this. This is a game in New York. Right. It's going to be a solid Iona crowd. Obviously, UConn will travel pretty well as well, but Pitino as an underdog, 13 seed. He's been in the tournament a few times. This is the highest seed they've been. This is the first time you can really kind of bet on them, where they're not a 15. I love it. I just really think he's going to take Dan Hurley to school, and he's going to show that he's kind of still one of the best college or coaches in the nation. And I'm loving it, man. This is a big time game for Iona. They're going to win it.
Yeah, that is kind of the one thing, even though I'm high on Duke, again, probably partly because of what I did last weekend, but they're younger. So even though they're playing really well, Filipowski is a true freshman. So, is he going to be, kind of like the Duke team that Michigan State beat with Cassius Winston, when Duke had Zion and all those guys? Is it going to be kind of one of those situations? They run up against a team that is just senior laden, like you keep laying out, that's just playing better team basketball or whatever. So it happens every year. How often is it just chalk the whole way? Maybe when you get to the Elite Eight or Final Four, it ends up a lot of 1s and 2s. But those first couple rounds, there's always going to be a Furman, a Colgate, or something like that. A St. Mary's making a couple, pulling off a couple wins. Right. So we'll see. I mean, it is the best time of the year. I know, Ted, you always talk about it. The best 4 days, that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, when it's just game after game after game.
It's awesome. And it's great because now that I'm retired, I work from home. The work I do, this is my glory days, man. I'm having people over. My wife's already went shopping today. We've got the food for both days all lined up. It's going to be wall to wall basketball from noon to midnight.
God,
both days, man. It's going to be awesome.
That sounds magical, man.
It is, and it's even the best part about it. Even we haven't talked about it. We're almost an hour into this podcast. Well, no, you mentioned it earlier. We did mention our sad Wolverines there that didn't make the tournament. Even since our Michigan Wolverines didn't make the tournament,
right?
It's almost like I almost don't even care. I'm still as excited. I might be more excited because now I can just watch the tournament and sit back
pressure,
and just,
right?
Just be excited, for pleasure. But so let's mention them. We got to talk about them a quick minute. So they did make the NIT. They won their first round game against Toledo. That was actually going to be iffy matchup. You know,
Yeah.
Jared, you were talking about the MAC. Toledo had a crazy talented team. Michigan ended up winning.
Started slow.
Started slow. They ended up winning. Jet Howard probably is done. That's probably the last time we've seen him play at
He didn't even
Michigan.
play. He didn't play in this game.
Dude, of
Right.
course.
Yeah,
I'm so Jet Howard out. Can I
Me
just? I'm
too.
sorry, Matt, but
I put this. I'll just say real quick. I put this is like a football player opting out of a bowl. I think he's
Yeah.
going to go pro. There's no reason for him to play in the NIT. I get what you're saying though, Jared.
Yeah, I mean, we all have been. Matt, you were kind of first to it. They're better without Jet Howard. They really were.
Well, think about it. Sorry, I keep cutting you off. When he was hurt, they went 3-0. He comes back, they lost 3 straight. I mean, does that mean anything? Yeah,
Of course it does.
It does. And we saw it. I mean, game on the line, free throw. He doesn't box out. Guy for Rutgers gets the rebound, lays it up, and he throws his arms up like he doesn't know what the hell just happened. Like it wasn't at all his fault. Like I said, Jawan does not coach him like he does other guys. It's coaching. How do you look at that? And he doesn't come off the floor. He doesn't get benched for the next 10 minutes. Just whatever. Next on to the next play. Go run an isolation for him on the other end. I'm sick of this program. The fact you guys are watching this NIT games. Did you guys watch it?
It was on in the background. I had it
on the background here too.
Unbelievable. I spent way too many seconds watching that team this year. It was depressing. I felt like they never played that hard. The Jet Howard play perfectly encapsulates everything about this year. I don't know. I know they got some guys returning next year. I'm excited to watch them next year. I think they were better. Buffkin, like my dad told me, basically, it seemed like Buffkin really understood his role when Jet Howard wasn't there, but he kind of didn't really know what to do when Howard was there. So I'll be excited to see him and Dickinson back. But I'm ready to close the page on this 2023 season.
Yeah.
If they make it all the way to the championship of the NIT, I still won't watch.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I'm curious on both of your guys' thoughts because I know how I feel. If so, say they make it to the NIT championship or win the NIT, like, does it matter? Does it show that they should have been in the NCAA tournament?
It would
just a waste of time. Like, where do you guys stand on Michigan in the NIT?
It would just reinforce the whole Jet Howard theory if he's not playing in it and they go on and win it. Obviously, they're not the greatest teams in the NIT, but it's the type of teams that they've been losing to all year. So that's what it would show me. Other than that, not much.
Yeah, I mean the NIT is the NIT, but it's Michigan, and I'm going to watch every game they play. And as long as I'm home to watch it, I will watch them play, just like I would Michigan State if they were in the NIT. But you guys know how I stand on Jet Howard. I still haven't figured out how he's a first-round NBA draft choice, but I guess top 30 in the country, that's what he is, right?
Potential. Huh? I think it's 100% potential. Really? I think you can see he can shoot. You can see he can score.
Yeah, a lot of players.
I think anymore. That's what the NBA draft is.
Yeah,
you're drafting this freshman who you're hoping turns into the next Ja Morant or something like that. And I think that's what it'll be because you can see he can shoot. I think he's got a long ways to go when defensively.
Yeah, you can see the effort's not there. That's the thing, the effort.
That's the one thing. What's the one thing a coach always tells you? That's the one thing you can control is your effort. And if he's not boxing out and he's not hustling back on defense, it's a bad look. But
and that's one thing like Dan Morrill, our local coach at Langsburg. I asked him a couple different times about it. I've told you they play tremendous defense. And I asked him about that. And he said, you know what? Defense is something you somewhat can control. Offense, you could have a bad night and not hit. But defense, you can sort of control that. And that's a lot of that goes unnoticed, but it's a big part of the game. And and when it comes to defense, a whole lot of it is effort. It's hard work and it's effort. And I haven't seen that out of Jet Howard, but that's just me.
Yep. No, you're not wrong. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they do. I am curious to see. You mentioned Jared Buffkin and Dickinson coming back. That'd
be awesome.
I feel like Dickinson, I mean, he can do whatever he wants, but I feel like he probably should come back. And then Buffkin, he's in that weird spot, Buffkin, because he finished the year strong. So could he go, ride this wave and go get drafted, come back for one more year and become a top 10 pick? If they both come back, next year's team could have something. But
Dougie's going to be pretty solid at point guard too.
Yeah, he can play. They've got some other young players. So yeah, we'll see.